What's good, guys? I'm back here today on Showdown, but we're not doing a Showdown live. I got a discussion video after a long time. I'm going to be talking about the few things that I think should have been banned or removed in Gen 8 OU. Now that we got Gen 9 coming out in the next like 5 weeks or so, I figured, you know what? Gen 8 is basically complete. There's not going to be any changes to the tier at this point before the new game comes out. So basically, here are the few things that I think should have been banned from this metagame. I think it would have made it a lot more fun and healthy and that kind of thing. I don't expect this video to be too long, maybe like 10, 12 minutes, something like that. But yes, let me know in the comments below what you thought about Gen 8 OU, and let me know if you agree with my list of what should have been banned. But the first thing we got on this list is none other than Melmetal. Yes, that is right. I think I've talked about this in the past, that I thought this mon was very, very broken. Easiest comparison you can make for Melmetal is that this is like the physical Magearna of Gen 7. But in my opinion, it's more broken. See, when you look at Magearna back in Gen 7, a lot of the time, it would have to run max speed, max special attack. Also, while Magearna was hard to one-hit KO, at least there were Z moves. So you could, you can muscle past it with like whatever super effective Z move. There are no Z moves in Gen 8. You got Life Orb Earthquakes, you got Heatran Magma Storms, you got Blaziken Flare Blitz, you got close combat from Urshifu. It doesn't matter. None of these moves can OHKO Urshifu. And unfortunately, Urshifu has one move called Double Iron Bash, which kills all those guys. The resist doesn't matter. I'll tell you guys a funny calc. I'm pretty sure that, what's it called? Choice Band Melmetal's Double Iron Bash does the same amount of damage to Excadrill that Gliscor's Earthquake does to Excadrill. Just to give you an idea of the sheer power of this Pokemon. The not very effective Double Iron Bash does as much as Gliscor's super effective Earthquake. Like, Melmetal is a very strong Pokemon. Its ability is bullshit too. It has the ultimate move pool as well. Look at the moves it has. Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Double Iron Bash. All cheese bullshit moves. Ice Punch and Thunder Punch both have great secondary effects if you freeze or paralyze the opponent. If you Thunder Punch and you paralyze the Skarm or the Corv, which a lot of times it's not hard to do, you just gotta knock off their Rocky Helmet and then you can spam the move on the switch, since that's the only real switching. If you get the paralysis on those, they're fucked. You got Double Iron Bash, the greatest move in the game, because it has a 50% flinch rate, not to mention that it's 144 base power thanks to Iron Fist. This mon is just the definition of brainless. Too many sets as well. You got Banded, you got Assault Vest, you got Substitute, you got Iron Defense, you got Toxic Protect, Protective Pads. I said Choice Band, right? There's just too much. Way too much stuff. And again, it's just, in my opinion, Melmetal has always been the highest reward, lowest risk Pokemon. You actually have no risk running this Pokemon unless you run into, I don't know, Skarmory plus Scizor plus Magnezone. Yes, then I guess you got counter teamed, sorry to say. But Magnezone is probably the best partner you can have for Melmetal too. One of my favorite teams. I haven't brought it to any tournaments, but it's been used in a few tournaments. But anyway, Magnezone plus Melmetal. And I'm not even using the super powerful Choice Band Melmetal. I'm using the pussy Protect around, stall around with Toxic Double Iron Bash. But this set with Magnezone is a terror to go up against. Like, it is just too much. Melmetal was always a Pokemon that it was really confusing to me why they left this in the tier. Too much variation, a super button mashing Pokemon, and I really do think the metagame would have been healthier without it. This is a Pokemon that I believe should have just been banned straight up. Like, if there was a suspect test for it, I wouldn't need to ladder to like change my opinion. I'm very for the opinion that metagame is better without Melmetal, but I'm sure that they keep this mon in the tier just because it checks other stuff like Weavile, so that is the unfortunate situation. However, yes, that is the number one on my list. If I could ban anything, it'd be Melmetal. So let me know in the comments below what you think about that. But anyway, let's move on to my number two. Now, my number two, I don't believe I'm not as enthusiastic in it getting banned the way I am Melmetal, but I do believe that it should have been suspect tested, and that is none other than Toxapex. That's right. Now, Toxapex is a Pokemon that I believe should have been tested at least in this in the whole Gen 8. It's just a very, very frustrating Pokemon to deal with. I think it's just too good for Stalwart Regenerator. Now, when you look at a metagame, we're not playing at the high. You can say that this is like a competitive game, sure, but it's not like some super valid esport or anything. Fun and enjoyment of the game has to come into play. I think Toxapex was way too good for Stalwart Regenerator, and it's the only mon that can counter way too much stuff for Stall. Like, you got to think of the mons that already give Stall quite a lot of pressure. Weavile, Heatran, those are two of the most annoying mons for Stall, especially Heatran. And Toxapex is able to come in on those extremely easily. The mon's able to basically wall off everything's attack and shrug it off with Regenerator. Regenerator also could be broken if you want to go into like that type of discussion, but really all of these things together on Toxapex make it extremely hard to deal with. You can see how many Toxapex teams I have. Like, I don't really be using Toxapex like that in tournament, but it's just too good. Like, this is the set I used in this tournament. I had this in a tournament I was playing in like 2 weeks ago or so. I have a eject button, but really you can use whatever item. I just have a eject button because Toxapex is usually my knockoff switching regardless. But simply with the knockoff Toxic Haze Recover set, you can just wall everything forever. We're in a metagame where knockoff is the best move for sure, especially because so many teams have to go toe to toe for like 100+ turns when it's balanced. Hazards don't make as much of a difference because of heavy duty boosts, and that's why knockoff is such a big move. Pex is probably the best knockoff abuser in my opinion. It's better than Weavile, it's better than Tornadus, it's better than all of them to me, because Pex really does force the most amount of switches. It's very hard to OHKO. You can't even stay in with your ground types on it because you get feared. You have to fear Scald. Look at this team, for example. This bulky ass team. Great team. This was a Smogon Tour winning team. I think Empo built it, but either way, what I'm trying to say is this team, Pex can definitely be a bitch to it, right? It can burn every single mon. It forces out a lot of these guys. Clef has to come in to just sit on it. Pex is very annoying for the bulkier team. You gotta understand. This thing has just existed to stall out the games, and I cannot say just like Melmetal, like, oh, this thing was broken, it should have been banned, because past like it being toxic for the metagame, no pun intended, very clever, but anyway, past it being toxic for the metagame, it also comes down to an enjoyment thing. I think Pex was just a very unenjoyable part of the metagame. I think it pushed a lot of bullshit in this meta. And that's basically why, for me, this is a mon that I think I would have been really good with being suspect tested. If it got banned, I don't know. I don't know how the metagame would have changed. I will say that if it got banned, some things may have also then rose to like such a point of being broken too, because Pex does keep a lot of things in check. That's the unfortunate reality with Gen 8. See, with Gen 7, a lot of broken shit kept shit broken. I mean, a lot of broken shit kept other broken shit in check, but you had Z moves, so everybody was broken. So it was like, it balanced itself out in like a funny way. But Gen 8, too much stuff like Melmetal, Weavile, etc. all like challenge you, like they all counter each other, so they all have to stay in the tier. But yeah, Pex is the other thing that I think could have definitely been suspect tested. I would not have had a problem with them removing it from the metagame. Maybe it got retested at a later point and then added back to the metagame, I don't know. But I really would have liked to try a metagame without Toxapex. This shit's lame, and it turns Stall into a nightmare. Stall is not viable without Toxapex. That is 100% certain. I think Stall is actually incredible in Gen 8 OU, but people don't really use it that much. I don't really know why. In fact, Stall's like the best it's ever been. Shit's ass in Gen 7. I remember whenever I got stalled in Gen 7, I would literally be happy because I was like, oh, you're fucked. Like, I just have Z move Garchomp. Now you're gonna lose no matter what. I just gotta double switch a couple times. In Gen 8, there is no double switch 100 times because everybody has boots. You can't double switch and make them take stealth rock damage. That doesn't matter anymore. So yeah, Pex and all that shit, whatever. It was a net negative for the metagame. And Stall is way too good, especially with Pex. But that lets me segue into my next thing, and the final thing that I think should have been banned. The heavy duty boots. Yes, that's right, the heavy duty boots. Now, heavy duty boots is I hate this item like anything. I think this was probably the greatest negative to the metagame by far, actually. This was probably the worst item that they could have introduced, and I'll tell you why. Because I think the idea for boots was that it would go on Charizards, it would go on Volcaronas, etc., and it would turn these mons into viable Pokemon, and it did. I mean, look at Dragonite, this shit is a beast. But in reality, they started putting it on their Hippos, they started putting it on their Gastrodons, they started putting it on their Tornaduses, they started putting it on their Blissies. Everything started rocking the boots. And because of that, boots basically became the premier stall item, and now every stall needs at least 3 or 4 boost mons, and it's also why knockoff is the best move in the metagame by far. Knockoff is absolutely the best move in the metagame because you have to get rid of these shits ASAP. In a balanced game, most of these games can go on for 200, 300 turns in a balance versus balance, but people just aren't that patient. Like when you go on the ladder, people aren't that patient, so the games they fuck up, they take like a much shorter amount of time. But in my opinion, boots has really pushed balance and stall over the edge. Gen 8 as a whole has always really been focused on like having no drawbacks. Like that is the theme of the whole metagame, right? You have so much regenerator stuff, you have so much heavy duty boots, then there's a lot of other hyper offensive spam. You know, you can go with Aurora Veil hyper offense. There's no drawback in this metagame to the type of styles you can spam. Back in Gen 7, 6, 5, all that stuff, you can set up hazards and you can make a lot of double switches to force progress. You cannot force progress anymore thanks to boots. I believe that boots should have had a item clause, absolutely. Or it should have been restricted to only work on mons that are like rock weak or something like that, because the shit is so stupid. Slow Bro, Blissey, Slow King, all of them shits, like, you can run knockoff spam, but it's just so spammed and so tired. It turns into a very unenjoyable, like, cyclical meta game. Everything is recycled over and over and over again. Heavy duty boots, yeah, that was my least favorite item for sure. I think heavy duty boots and pecs made the game very unfun to me. Gen 8 as a whole was my least favorite generation of OU. Having played Gen 5 OU for while it was the main gen, and then Gen 6 OU for the whole time, 7 OU for the whole time, and now 8. 8 I like on and off played. I definitely played 8 the least from the last 4 gens, because I started in Gen 5. But either way, 8 was the worst to me. Very not fun. So let me know in the comments below what you think about Gen 8. If you're excited for Gen 9, if you think the shit's going to be good, or it'll be terrible. Let me know in the comments if you agree with what I think should have been banned and what you think should have been banned. And have a good one. Peace.